Ho ho ho, motherfuckers. That's right, it's your boy. Today I bring you the 2023 Purge Evil Christmas Special. How could it be none other than the ultimate, the official Santa Claus build for Baldur's Gate 3. Today's Old Saint Nick is an absolute frosty badass, the holliest, jolliest of them all. As a paladin, Santa's unshakable oath of devotion to bring joy to those deserving grants him extreme strength and charisma. In the end, this build will hit heavy with an emphasis on ice or cold themed spells and gear, a medieval badass Santa who will stop at nothing to deliver his presents. This was originally going to be a heavily gimmicked build, but it turned out to be pretty strong and fun to play, so welcome to Purge Evil. Thank you for stopping by. Let's get into it. Character creation in level 1. First things first, consider the Dark Urge origin. This isn't actually a necessity, but I think it brings the ultimate Christmas flavor to the build later in the game with the Slayer form, now formerly known as Santa's Krampus form, the perfect ability to punish those unworthy of even a lump of coal. This will also lock your background to the Haunted one, but if you don't choose the Dark Urge for the Slayer form, take Guild Artisan or Folk Hero, of course, for your background. Guild Artisan is particularly useful because it bolsters your insight and persuasion. Some race choices could be human or elf, but I think the best choice we have here is obviously gonna be dwarf. Strong, hardy, and with just the right proportions. I like Dwergar the most in general because they get advantage on saving throws against Charm and Paralyze, and I think it could fit well considering the Krampus counterpart, but for my Santa, I'll be choosing Gold Dwarf. With this, we will simply gain an extra point of health per level up. As mentioned earlier, take Oath of Devotion Paladin to begin your Christmas crusade. With this, you'll gain Lay on Hands, the Paladin exclusive healing spell, Divine Sense, which is a bonus action granting you advantage against fiends, undead, and celestials, and Holy Rebuke, in which you can bolster an ally with an aura that deals 1 to 4 radiant damage to any enemy that attacks them. Your main stats for this build are going to be Charisma, Strength, and Constitution in that order. I will not be mentioning the Hag's Hair in this video. For min-max stats, I would go with something like Strength 16, Dex 12, Constitution 14, Intelligence 8, Wisdom 8, and Charisma at 16. For more roleplay friendly stats, I'd probably go with something like Strength 14, Dex 10, Constitution 14, Intelligence 10, Wisdom 12, and Charisma at 16. I chose Religion and Medicine for the skills. Make sure you drink the potion in Act 2 to increase your strength permanently by 2. Level 2. Progress one more level into Paladin to unlock our smites, a fighting style, and the ability to prepare some Paladin spells. Great weapon fighting is the best if you plan to use two-handers, but to keep in line with our theme, Santa will take protection in order to gift an ally a shield that imposes disadvantage on an enemy's attack. Santa likes to keep prepared Thunderous Smite, Heroism, Shield of Faith, Bless, and Compel Duel. You probably won't use Bless very much as a paladin, but it's too perfect for Old Saint Nick to not include. Compel Duel is obviously Santa talking shit to someone on the naughty list to the point of violence. Level 3. Taking another level into Paladin, we unlock another spell slot, Divine Health, which prevents disease, 2 Channel Oath abilities, and 2 always prepared spells. First up for Channel Oath abilities, we get Sacred Weapon, allowing Santa to imbue his weapon with Holiday Spirit, adding his Charisma modifier to attack rolls and emitting a bright, cheery light. Very, very useful, especially in the early game, further improving our ability to punish the naughty evil. We also get Turn the Unholy, which causes fiends and undead within a 9-meter radius to turn away and flee from Santa for 3 turns or until taking damage. Further, protection from evil and good is always prepared now, and we can also gain an always prepared cleric spell with Sanctuary, allowing Santa to gift himself or his ally the ability of not being targeted and harmed. Keep in mind that area of effect spells will still cause the buffed creature to take damage. I prepared Command here. Level 4. At level 4 Paladin, we gain a Lay on Hands charge in our first feat. Here we will simply take ability improvement to increase our charisma by 2, landing on 18. Alternatively, take dual wield. Dual wield will allow Santa to make full use of the chilled condition. I'll talk more about this towards the end of the build. Alternatively, for funsies, you can take Tavern Brawler and proceed to use a bag as an improvised weapon and smite the naughty listers with your bottomless bag of presents. I kinda like this idea, but we could honestly create an entire build around this idea and feat alone, which is why I'm mentioning it only as an alternative. I prepared Divine Favor here, level 5. For our final level into Paladin, we gain another level 1 spell slot and 2 level 2 spell slots, along with extra attack and silence and lesser restoration for always prepared spells. Silence is a spell that can be used to completely trivialize some fights like with the hag, so definitely don't let it go to waste. Here I like to prepare Aid, which I think fits Santa, but you could always prepare Branding Smite instead. For the next prepared spell, we absolutely have to take Magic Weapon, which we can stack with our Sacred Weapon buff. Take note that you must cast Magic Weapon first, as Magic Weapon will not work on an already magically imbued weapon. Magic Weapon gives our damage and attack rolls a +1 bonus, and when stacked with Sacred Weapon at this level, will result in a +5 increase to our attack rolls, which is absolutely massive. And we can further increase this by upcasting Magic Weapon later in the game and also increasing our charisma. Level 6. At level 6, Santa Claus is starting to encounter stronger foes, and so he must adjust accordingly. This is the point where our hero begins to use his innate magical prowess of harnessing the elements of the North Pole. Here we'll take Draconic Sorcerer with a passive of the same nature as our racial, giving us an extra point of health on each level up. We'll continue with Sorcerer for the rest of the build. For the cantrips, you know we have to take the Santa Blaster, Ray of Frost, Mage Hand, so Santa doesn't have to fit down chimneys himself, he can just send this in there, Dancing Christmas Lights of course, and Friends to inspire jolly holiday spirit in anybody Santa might speak with. Minor Illusion is a good choice too to distract little kids who think they might have actually seen the real Santa. Also, maybe take Blade Ward instead. For our 2 spells, we obviously have to take Ice Knife and Chromatic Orb to start annihilating the naughty listers. Take the White Dragon Ancestor to gain Armor of Agathis, another power of the North Pole that grants Santa temporary HP and deals cold damage to attackers, which is especially good for Santa considering his melee focus. A very good spell that you can use until the end of the game, just make sure to upcast it as high as possible. Level 7. Moving on to Sorcerer 2, we unlock Meta Magic, sorcery points to use Meta Magic, the ability to regain spell slots and sorcery points by sacrificing the other, and a new spell. First, we'll take Thunder Wave for our spell, just for a lack of a better option. Otherwise, I would take Featherfall, which kind of fits Santa actually perfectly. Take Twin Spell for sure, and any of the other ones you like, but since our build is pretty melee heavy, I took Distant Spell. Level 8. Here at level 3 Sorcerer, we gain a new level 2 spell and another Meta Magic ability. Quickly take Misty Step to easily make it down chimneys if the Mage Hand just isn't doing the trick. Obviously, Knock would be a good way for Santa to get into houses, but Misty Step has combat utility, so that's what we'll take. Take Quicken Spell for your Meta Magic to cast spells as a bonus action, and at this point in the build, Santa's true colors are on full display, spreading holiday havoc with jolly smites and frosty treats. Level 9. At level 9 Sorcerer 4, we gain another sorcery point and a level 3 spell slot, though we will need to level up one more time in order to learn a level 3 spell. We also gain a cantrip and a feat. I took Blade Ward for the cantrip because Santa is sturdy, and for the feat, we can simply take another ability improvement to raise charisma to 20. Otherwise, we can go with Tavern Brawler and beat people with our bag of presents, or even take the lucky feat. Dual wield is especially nice for frost builds like this one, so we can always hold Mourning Frost or the Flail and inflict chill on our enemies, which doubles cold damage against them. Honestly, the best choice is to take dual wield and use the hat that boosts charisma if you're worried about it. If you want 3 feats to cap charisma at 20 and get dual wield, drop a level of Paladin for a level of Sorcerer. Just take note of the trade-offs. I don't have a good Santa spell recommendation here, so I just took enlarge and reduce. Level 10. At level 10 Sorcerer 5, we gain another sorcery point and can unlock a level 3 spell, which will be none other than Sleet Storm, so Santa can now summon a flurry from the North Pole to break enemy concentration and create a field of ice. Level 11. Moving on to Sorcerer 6, we gain our next set of subclass features. With the first, Elemental Affinity Damage, all of our cold spells will now add our charisma modifier to the damage thanks to our selection of the White Dragon Ancestor earlier. A huge buff, and also when we cast one of those cold spells, with Elemental Affinity Resistance, we can spend a sorcery point to become resistant to cold damage. Again, I don't have a Santa spell recommendation for this level, so I just went with haste. Level 12. Here we arrive at our final level of the Santa build with Sorcerer 7, unlocking our capstone spell, Ice Storm. This is one of my favorite spells in the entire game and unleashes a huge AoE, summoning hail and ice from the North Pole to annihilate the Naughty Listers. At this point, Santa Claus has completely transformed into the fabled Frost Knight of the North Pole, and nobody can stand in his path of delivering presents to good little boys and girls all across Faerun. Gear. As standard practice for any of my Paladin builds, I will recommend you have a look at my Paladin gear video for a general overview. I'll explain a few items, but generally just look for items that bolster your cold spells and abilities to further Santa's transformation into the true Frost Knight that he is. Weapons. Blood of Lathander is a go-to weapon for this build, at least in the early game, spreading holiday cheer with each smite. I also like the Mourning Frost staff previously mentioned, as it applies chill to enemies, which doubles cold damage against them, and you can get it in Act 1, so definitely make sure to obtain it. Cold Snap is a dagger that chills enemies if they miss attacks against you if wielded in the offhand, so take note of that as well. Markoheshkir is another great idea for Santa, as you can get Kreska's favor and become the conduit of Kreska's ice until long rest, which allows Santa to cast Cone of Cold and Ice Storm for free once per short rest, and also allows you to use Arcane Battery, which lets you cast your next spell without expending a spell slot. A very beautiful staff to make use of. Flail of Ages is a must-have for Glacial Age, which inflicts the chilled condition mentioned before and can be cast on your main hand weapon if the flail is in your offhand. This won't apply chilled if used on another weapon, but will increase its attack rolls by 1 and deal 1 to 4 cold damage. This stacks with your Paladin's sacred and magic weapon buffs, which can actually make it so you never miss again and probably hit a lot of crits. After you buff, you can then unequip the flail for one of the staves, the dagger, a shield for initiative, or anything else you like. Armor, clothing. Cold Brim Hat applies Encrusted with Frost, which gives the enemy disadvantage on dex saves, which is the AoE terrain save by the way, and can also be stacked to deal damage and freeze the target. Winter's Clutches Gloves also applies Encrusted with Frost, and when combined with the Cold Brim Hat, will quickly allow you to get the full stack of Encrusted with Frost to freeze the targets. To make sure Santa doesn't slip on his own ice, be sure to wear the Hoarfrost boots or the Disintegrating Nightwalkers, the latter giving you a free use of Misty Step once per short rest. The Dwarven Splint Mail is the armor I chose just to be different and because it's pretty good to look at. Not to mention, it boosts your constitution by 2, among other things. Trinkets. The Snowburst Ring creates a circle of ice around targets when you cast a cold spell, so make sure to equip that at all times. And the Necklace of Elemental Augmentation is simple yet effective, adding our spellcasting modifier to the damage of our cantrips, specifically Santa's Ray of Frost. On top of our subclass feature, wearing this necklace will give our Ray of Frost a bottom line extra 10 damage every time if charisma is at 20. Absolutely busted. Fill the rest of your slots with your favorite gear. As stated before, this was going to be a gimmick build, but it actually turned into one of my most viable builds yet, and I'm probably going to use this one myself in the future. We'll officially dub this build the Frost Knight of the North Pole, the most badass version of Santa that anyone has ever encountered. If you liked the build or found the video helpful in any way, make sure to subscribe for the next one and maybe consider joining us on the live streams. Thank you for stopping by, Merry Christmas, and until next time, purge evil.
Yeah, crown in my palm, but I ain't put it on. Yeah, crown in my palm, but I ain't put it on. Yeah, crown in my palm, but I ain't put it on. Yeah, crown in my palm, but I ain't put it on. Yeah.